If you actually want to know where Bitcoin, Ethereum, crypto, and traditional stocks are heading, then this is the place to be. Every time they say, this time is different. This time is different. This time is different. Every single cycle, I've just heard it non-stop. Let's really zoom out and let's really look at the odds. I know some of you back there struggle with counting. How many green consecutive candles did Bitcoin have monthly? How many? How many consecutive green monthly candles did we have in the previous cycle? How many consecutive green monthly candles do we have in this cycle? Okay, now this one is the current cycle. In this cycle, we have 3 consecutive candles. Now bear in mind, it's the 2nd of May. We haven't closed on a monthly. We've never ever, in every single bear market, never consecutively closed more than 2 monthly green candles. I'm predicting without a shadow of a doubt that this candle in May will be red. I'm really an expert in bear markets. We've spoken about this so many times and we've covered it week after week after week. We had a dead cat bounce in 2026. We have a dead cat bounce in 2022. We swept the high in 2022 bear market. It made all the bull tards extremely euphoric. With all the good news we had during these 2 periods, we headed all the way down. We formed an upthrust during the sweep of the highs, and in 2022 an upthrust and swept the previous high, and as a result we hurtled down, formed a selling climax, and in 2025 bull run everyone was excited. We formed an upthrust. Everyone was calling for higher prices. It was a pathetic performance, and then we hurdled and formed selling climax. We formed this pattern right over here. It was another upthrust. Likewise in 2022 we done the same exact thing. How remarkable. Different news, different headlines, and yet we still done exactly the same. We formed a diagonal trend line in 2022. We formed a diagonal trend line in 2026. We broke down and formed selling climax. We broke down and formed selling climax. Then we made an analogy that we're forming the same pattern as earlier. We formed an upthrust and believed that it was gonna fall lower. Instead, Michael Saylor, the bull tard, began buying. He is, in my opinion, a top signal. As a result, we said that this is invalidated. We moved on to the next stage, and this is the stage we're currently at. In 2022, we have selling climax over here. 2026, selling climax. We moved sideways, and then we broke out. We moved sideways, and then we broke out. Here is a better illustration. There's a trend line at the bottom and at the top, trend line at the bottom and the top. We broke out in the previous bear market of roughly 33%. Now we don't have to mimic it exactly and head all the way up to 86,000 US dollars. No. This just gives us a directional play. Now fractals are just a skeleton. They're just skeletons. It's our job to put the anatomy on top of the skeleton. This is Bitcoin CME futures, and we have a gap right over here. Now the $1 million question is, my fellow bears, are we going to fill it, and will that be the final upthrust? In 2022 we had a massive CME gap right over here and right over here. It wasn't until the bull market, almost 150 days later, that we filled this CME gap. Now right over here in 2018 was a bear market, brutal juicy bear market, and we filled this during a bear market. So we have 2 conflicting informations. In 2018 we filled it in a bear market, however in 2022 we never did until we headed into spring. If you're feeling the FOMO or about to feel the FOMO, I'm gonna really sober you up. Like really sober you up. If we go back to the all-time high, ladies and gentlemen, that's a pathetic 60%. Pathetic. You haven't missed out on anything. While most of the crypto bros were just twiddling their thumbs in traditional markets, stocks that I was in, ladies and gentlemen, just done from March, just the beginning of March, 135%. I think narratives are all dog shit. I think the news was all worthless. I think markets just play out the same thing. Fear, hope, greed, fear, hope, greed, and we just do it time and time again. In every single cycle, in every country, in every language, we do the same thing. MicroStrategy is doing the same thing they'd done previously in the previous bear market. From here all the way to the trough, we went down 90%. In this current cycle, we made an upthrust. In the previous cycle, we also made an upthrust. We went all the way down to this trend line in this current cycle. In the previous cycle, we done the same thing. We went to this trend line. We continued to rally and formed a right shoulder. We continued to rally, and guess what? We formed a right shoulder. We hurdled down, and that was the beginning of the end. We've done the same thing right here. Now, fractals are not all identical. There's some ebbs and some flows. This cycle, we actually went above the trend line. In this cycle, we never even went above the trend line. So we're going to skip to this area here, which is similar to a bottoming formation. We're going to continue to go up slightly, a bit more, ladies and gentlemen, and then I'm expecting another downturn and a sweep of the lows. Bitcoin actually formed a new low, whereas MicroStrategy formed a higher low. If you're still feeling FOMO, ladies and gentlemen, and you still have that hope and belief that this time will be different, look no further. This is the interest in the market. This is YouTube views. It's all down. This is SPX. I know these bulltards are excited because they just love to cheer on the price. They believe that S&P 500 is connected to Bitcoin somehow, some way. We're in a K-shaped economy. That means only the apex predators of the capital markets are the ones that are going to win. Everything else falls by the waistline. In 2018 bear market, ladies and gentlemen, they tried to peddle the same filthy stuff. They said S&P 500 is continuing to go up. That means surely Bitcoin is going to continue to go up. We're going to rally. And every time we rallied and came back down, made new lows, came back down, and guess what? Finally, we had a massive puke. It doesn't even matter if the S&P 500 forms a God candle. Every day, of every week, of every month, it doesn't matter. This is a bear market. Ethereum is doing exactly the same. In 2025, we formed an upthrust. In 2022, we formed an upthrust. That was the beginning of the end. We hurdled down, formed selling climax, formed this pattern right over here. Likewise, in the previous cycle, we done the exact same thing. An upthrust right over here and an upthrust right over here. We formed a diagonal trend line right over here. We formed a diagonal trend line right over here. Then, ladies and gentlemen, we broke down. Once we broke down, we formed selling climax. We broke down, and this was invalidated, like I mentioned in my previous episode, and we're forming this pattern here. Now this still has some more room to go. We haven't got to the upper range of this area. Now count with me, because I know some of you are really slow back there. In the previous bear market, we only had how many consecutive green candles? Right over here, we have 2 consecutive green candles. This is only the 2nd of May, ladies and gentlemen. We haven't closed. So by the end of the month, this shall and will be red. Let's talk about crypto and let's talk about alts. 99.9% of them are all trash. Their market cap is fake. They just borrow narratives from trendy topic. It happens every single cycle. This one is Tau, and it's just borrowing a narrative from AI, when clearly open source is way better than this decentralized stuff. That's my opinion. I know most of you don't like it, but that's my opinion. This is just a fake market cap, wash trading, and I help participants avoid all of this mess and all of this headache. There are coins that we hold, ladies and gentlemen, that are outperforming most of everyone. Altcoins have underperformed everything. Inflation, used goods, used cars, used everything. Just abysmal. They're down 80%, 90%. If I have a car, a used car, it doesn't go down 99%. Ladies and gentlemen, most of these go down 99% over time. If you want some help in your portfolio, look no further. It's forming a textbook cup and handle. There's no narratives here, guys. I'm just showing you green and red candles. Everyone's a genius during a bull market. Try and make some money in a bear market. We buy and trade stocks, ladies and gentlemen. Everything is going to get tokenized. Everything. Kraken, Coinbase, Robinhood, they're all coming on chain.